What is up, family? It is Sage here with Spirit Trek. And are you currently undergoing a spiritual awakening? Is your reality seemingly changing by the day? Do you seem to be having fluctuations in your emotions and in your mind and in your body? Are you not sure what's going on? Do you feel crazy even? Well, that's okay. I've been there. Many of us have been there. We're going to make it through this thing, all right? So here are my 12 signs that you might be undergoing a spiritual awakening. Let's talk about it. So, spiritual awakenings. I've had several myself, and it seems that once you awaken, once you begin the process, once you recognize the pattern and the shift in your consciousness and in your life, there's no going back. Once you trigger that awakening, it's only forward from there. And once you try, or if you try, to hinder yourself or stop the process, you will only meet resistance after resistance, problem after problem. Because once you know, you know. Once you remember, you remember. So this can be very troubling for many people when they begin their spiritual awakening process, because it seems like, well, damn, life wasn't that bad before. Or even if it was, now you have this new problem of awakening to a new reality to deal with and a new life to deal with. So the spiritual awakening can be very emotional, very troubling internally, and even externally as well. But the rewards and the benefits and the evolution that occurs as a result is well worth the trials and tribulations, the lessons, and the experiences that will come with it all. So here are my 12 symptoms or signs that you might be undergoing a spiritual awakening at this very moment. Number 1, you're beginning to bring up those unanswered questions you've had throughout your life and actually seek the answers this time. You're beginning to dig deep into truth. You're asking many, and then many more questions. You're seeking, you're skeptical even. And this is powerful, and this is how I really began my spiritual awakening process. Got to a point there where I was fed up with being confused, or just not even having what you would call answers to so many questions throughout my entire life. And once I began to ask these questions like, well, what is God? Or who is God? You know, what, who, where, when, why, how? Who am I? Where am I? What is this? What is reality? You know, what is going on with the government and the world, and why there are wars, and why there are all these conflicts and divisions and struggles, and really digging into everything. And then once you find one answer, you find 2 more questions. And it just keeps going from there, it seems, right? And eventually, you'll get to a point to where you just know, the all-knowing phase. And it may take years, it might take, a couple of weeks, depending on where you're at and how you're able to advance in that manner. But the questioning phase, the research, looking into all the philosophers and all the different spiritual teachers and different beliefs and some symbology, numerology, etymology, astrology, it keeps going, right? But that phase is definitely a clear sign that you are indeed tapping into the spiritual awakening process. And it's powerful. Knowledge is power. Knowledge empowers you to make new decisions, empowering decisions, transformation decisions. So that's number 1. Number 2, you will find that you are more and more isolated from people around you, from the world around you at times, either by decision or by happenstance. You'll probably end up being by yourself more. You might even go out more by yourself, eat out by yourself, do things by yourself. 1, because you enjoy your own company more, or you're more curious about how to be in your own space without any other intruders, right? And 2, because you're starting to realize that you don't necessarily blend and fit in as much as you used to with those old friends and even family members, or even your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend even. It's crazy, but that's how it can be. You begin to evolve and grow apart. And that's a natural part of life, especially when people become very stagnant in their evolution process. When someone is stuck here at a certain frequency or a certain way of thinking and a certain collective consciousness, and you're now shifting because of this awakening process, you might find that although you might love that person or care about that person or have many experiences with that person, you're not able to fully click like you used to. For example, like they might tell a joke about something or want to see a movie or have a certain experience and you're just not interested. What also happened with me a lot is I'll be in the clouds, my head would be in a different space, and I would be in conversation or in the space of people that I knew, and my mind would be on a different wave. I would just be thinking about different concepts and even in a higher energy pyramid than other people. Therefore, we might be having the same conversation that we had 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago. It's a better analogy. And although the words were the same, the way that I interpreted it and the way that I felt the energy of the conversation was completely different. So although we're having the same conversation, they might be thinking like, where are you at? Like, what are you thinking about? Like, you seem like you're in a different space right now. Like, are you good? Like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay. And you just realize that there's a separation that begins to occur in these relationships. And it's not personal most times. It's a matter of, like I said, growing apart. Number 3, you want to explore more. You want to experience more life. You want to see the world. You want to see even your own neighborhood more. See more people, realize what is really out there. It might seem like a contradiction from step number 2, sign number 2, which was isolation. But at the same time, isolation is referring to constantly being in the presence of people in your life, like friends and family, acquaintances, and lovers. But that doesn't rule out wanting to experience life and to meet more people, new people. You want to expand your bubble and see what's really out there, especially if you were like me growing up, where you were kind of already in a bubble. You didn't really do much. You were kind of in the house a lot anyways. And this is powerful. Chances are you also want to travel, go across the world, go across to different states and different scenes and see different vibes, interact with different cultures, not just go turn up, but also, see what's going on in that park and see what's going on at that festival and see what that person's about and see why they're that way. And that's very natural when you're having a spiritual awakening, because you realize that the spirit is very big. The spirit, the soul, is infinite. And as you begin to go further down this rabbit hole called life, you begin to also realize that it's all connected, interconnected. And you are a part of that web of connectivity. And the more that you experience and learn about the world and those around you, the more that you learn about yourself. So that's number 3. Number 4 connects to that last point of wanting to experience more. And that is, you find yourself more drawn to natural things, natural people, natural experiences, natural food, just nature in general, animals, all of that. You might even experience a diet change, one that's more beneficial to your health, that is allows you to intake more natural foods like fruits and veggies. And that's very common. I myself went vegan a few years after awakening for the first time. I was in nature a lot more, going to the parks, trying to find trails and beaches and whatever I could to really just embrace nature as much as possible. I began to see animals and flowers and plants in a whole new way, looking at it like a kid almost, enchanted by its grace and perfection in so many ways. So yes, natural things are pretty awesome. We are natural and we're human. How natural can you get? Actually, humans are pretty interesting. Anyways, number 5, you cut out a lot of your television, media, and even movies, which is also media. But I found myself, and I see many others who awaken, stop watching TV. I mean, I haven't had cable yet since coming to my apartment. I haven't watched a TV show in I don't know how long. I cut out horror movies and scary movies. I cut out a lot of the trap music in my life and certain hip hop and music that was low frequency, low vibe. Because these things really affect you and they steal your time. Especially TV. When you watch TV, not only are you being programmed by what you're watching, but you're also living vicariously through what's on the TV set. Instead of living life and experiencing and growing, you're watching someone else live life, experience, and grow. And through that, you get this false sense of accomplishment or progression because you're seeing someone else progress and do things. While you just spent 2, 3, 4, 6 hours in front of a screen being programmed about what life should be, how things are supposed to look, what could happen, what couldn't happen, fear-based, illusion, also a lot. I can't go down the entire list right now, but TV contains so much. And you just realize, hey, there's more to do in my time. I can do so much more. And even gaming, like I was a big gamer. I gamed for hours. I mean, I would be in high school and I would come home from school and from 4 to 9 o'clock, I would just game. And then in the summertime, I would get up at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock and game from 9 to 9. Just gaming, Xbox, computer games, whatever, right? And I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my time? My energy is zapped. So you prioritize and say, you know what? It was fun while it lasted. Now it's time to put that to the side and use my energy and my time more wisely. Protect my mind, protect my energy, protect my soul from this music and these frequencies being emitted over this speaker, over this radio, and go from there. Especially horror movies. I can watch them now without being as affected, but I still choose not to because that's some deep programming. Especially when you're trying to actually deal with spiritual topics and spiritual experiences. It can get very real because that program will literally shift your consciousness. And when you enter into states of altered consciousness, and you have those horror programs in your mind, those fear-induced programs in your mind, you best believe it's going to mess you up. So that's that. Number 6 is the identity crisis. Number 6 is the identity crisis. Wondering who you really are, what you are, what's going on with your life. And this is very common and it can be pretty scary as well. See, when you wake up, when you have this awakening, you start to see a lot of the illusion that you've been living. A lot of the lies you've been told about who you are and what you are. Your ego begins to even dissolve at times. You really begin to say, what is really happening? I've been living for X amount of years doing who knows what, and now I'm here. And I don't know how I got here. I don't know what to make of this. So I just encourage you to stay strong in those experiences, to realize that you are here for a reason. Your life has purpose. You being is purpose in itself. And that you hold immense potential and opportunity in this lifetime if you so allow it for yourself. And to move forward, this phase of the awakening leads to a lot of self-growth, a lot of self-discovery, spending time with yourself, especially now that you're more isolated, and putting in that self-work. You become very self-centered even, and begin to figure out how to improve yourself in any way possible. Letting go of emotional issues, trying to figure out how to be more happy, figuring out how to be more healthy, and so forth and so on. And that process seems to never end. Once you get that going, it just steamrolls and it builds and becomes quantum to where you're growing and evolving at just an immense rate, immense speed. So that's that. Number 7, what a divine number, is that things that used to seem weird are now pretty cool. And this is hilarious because I recall growing up, whenever I would like watch YouTube videos or something, or see somebody outside who would look kind of funny, or was talking about something very spiritual, or thinking about hippies and like whatever, right? And I'd be like, yo, that's really weird. Like, what are they talking about? What is that like? Like, this judgment, right? Just that old mindset, that old energy. And then now that I would see it, after waking up and, begin to wake up more and more and more and more, I'm like, yo, that's what they were saying. It makes so much sense. And then I became those weird people. It's funny how that happens. But literally, almost everything that I thought was really odd, just didn't make any sense as a kid, now that I see it, after detaching from those old programs I was given as a kid, now that I see it, I'm like, yo, they were onto something years ago. They were tapped in years ago. Those vegetarians, they were onto something. That person outside on the corner talking about X, Y, and Z was definitely speaking from a very high truth, high consciousness perspective. And it all makes sense. And what that does is it makes you very interested, once again, in learning more about people, learning more about the world, and seeing more, because you realize that there's a lot to see, a lot going on out here. And you can learn from everything. Number 8 is that you become more sensitive to energies. You become more empathetic. This is fun and also troubling if you're not able to handle those energies. And I'm sure many of you have experienced this, where you enter into certain spaces. You go around certain people, you go into certain environments. And some of you have been very, very aware of this since birth. Very, very in tune, especially women, apparently. I see it in y'all. And you just sense the energy of that space, of that collective, of that person, of that thing, of that music, or whatever it is. And it can get so extreme to where you literally have to just leave or just turn off that music. And it can get so intense that you literally just have to leave or turn off that music or whatever it is, and just rid yourself or get away from that energy source. This is power, my friend. This is a gift. This is something that can be harnessed for beneficial uses. But when you're first tapping into it and enhancing that ability, it can be very overwhelming. Which would mean that you have to learn how to ground those energies, learn how to remain balanced, and maintain your own vibration in those spaces, in those energies. And also being more empathetic, you can really learn to, or begin to take on the energies of other people around you, really begin to tap into their mental, emotional, and energetic states. And once again, this is a powerful thing, but can be very detrimental when the people around you are very detrimental to your health, and you're not able to control or even understand what's fully happening, or cut it off. So just realize that it's not a bad thing, but just to work on how can you balance and hold those energies, and learning what to cut out, what just isn't for you, who just isn't for you, and separating yourself from those experiences until you're able to become a fully empowered shadow and light worker, and stay in those spaces and shift the environment around you by your presence without being too heavily influenced by those environments. Number 9, more intense dreaming and paranormal experiences. This might be more vivid, obviously, a little more clear and shocking to you. And depending on your past experiences, your vessel and your soul's ability to bring those experiences into this reality, your perceptibility to those experiences, it can vary from person to person. For me, I definitely had some more intense dreaming. And even to this day, my dreams can get more and more intense depending on my states of energy, my third eye activation, my conscious awareness, my dream practices, But At the end of the day, when you're awakening, you are more perceptible to these things. You might begin to see certain things. You might begin to feel certain presences. And this is very delicate work because much of these things are very real. So you have to be in balance and be very cautious whenever you try and quickly activate yourself with Kundalini exercises and breathing and third eye activation techniques that are made to awaken you very, very quick, because it can be very, very real depending on how fast and how intense it is for you. So I advise everyone, if you are in the beginning phases, or what you might feel to be the beginning phases of your awakening process, and you have no prior experiences with very intense energies, high levels of consciousness, or spiritual experiences, I would say to be patient. You know, there's no rush. Because whenever you begin to have more paranormal experiences, it can get a little intense if you haven't done the work to be able to handle it in a balanced state of being. Number 10, everything seems to speed up. Everything is really quick, really fast. You begin to grow faster, you shift more, you have fast lifestyle changes and life transitions even. You begin to have faster emotional shifts, you know, variations and fluctuations in your emotions really quick. And that can continue on in many varieties, many areas of life. For example, when I began to have my spiritual awakening, I went through many different personas, perhaps you can call it, identities. I went through many different belief systems, many different ways of living and being, and experiencing life in a very short period of time. Whereas I felt like the prior, 18, 19, 20 years of my life were somewhat, consistent. There were changes, but in like a period of 5 or 6 years, it seemed like damn near everything changed. Every other week, it was a new transition. And that's very common, especially emotionally. You can go through many emotions during awakening. So this, bear the storm, fight through it, but don't fight through it, but just relax into it is a better way of saying it. And you will come out of that cycle and just learn how to balance yourself as always. I keep saying balance, but balance is key in these processes. Number 11 is a bit more abstract, but very real, at least in my experiences. And it is a constant seeking or longing or searching for something. And that something is very hard to label. There seems to be this thing that everyone is looking for in this lifetime. Especially once you awaken, there's like a rope or like a prize at the end of the tunnel, right? The light, you could call it. And religions may have heaven or nirvana or whatever else to label, entitle that something that we're all looking for. But even that doesn't quite seem to fully embody all that it is, that something is. And you might be looking into different faiths. You might be looking for soulmates and twin flames. You might be looking for higher knowledge. You might be looking for higher consciousness and all these things, right? Looking for that, what is it? And I will say that something is self, variations of self, parts of self that you have yet to fully unveil and bring into this experience. So everything that you encounter, everything that you learn, everything that you do, in a sense, unpacks more of yourself and allows you to experience more of self. So whenever you're looking for external things in this life that's seeking to fulfill you, you realize that what you really wanted was more of you. And as you go down this life journey, the spiritual journey, you will begin to find much, much more. And that full and total fulfillment comes really when you accept self and you begin to really live out the concept of all is self, because all is self. And that's very expansive. You're looking for something that's already there. And by trying to put our concepts of reality onto everything around us, not realizing that they're all reflections, you're looking for things that don't really exist. And so the awakening and the enlightenment, all these things really fully embodied and fully come into fruition when you realize that what you've been seeking was already there, within and as without. And the search can end, the seeking can stop, and you can really relax into the experience of beingness. Number 12, you begin to receive more synchronicities, guides, assistance, signs that you are indeed on the right path. When I began my spiritual awakening process, I began to really be almost handpicked by my higher self, of course, the proper guidance. And most of my journey, most of my awakening was by myself, years by myself, in my dorm room, wherever I was at, just trying to figure things out. And I didn't really have many physical mentors or even companions on the journey. I do now, but and even still, it's still mostly by myself. But back then, I would find certain teachers, certain practices, certain systems at the perfect time. I would receive certain messages, or even what you would call spirit guides or angels or whatever in my life that seemed to really just have the perfect words, the perfect push forward for me that I needed at any given time. And you will have more of that, more synchronicities. You will see more numbers, 1111, 333, 222, 111, 444, whatever, 888, 777, it goes on and on. You will see more and more of that. And so with that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you've gathered something from this list of 12 signs and continue to ascend, transcend, evolve, activate, love, and become and be human being. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Much love, family.